Okay, we are on. Ladies and gentlemen and kids, this is Gehrig, my good friend from Los Angeles. It's been quite the interesting journey that Gehrig has had himself as an artist, as an entrepreneur. We're going to talk about all of that today during this interview. But first of all, let me welcome Gehrig to join me in the Zoom interview. Thank you very much, Gehrig, for taking out time today. How have you been, buddy?
Yeah, man. Thank you for having me on. Yeah, I've been good. I've been good. Obviously the last couple of years been a little weird for everyone, but I've been very fortunate to have avoided, I think, some of the worst pitfalls of it. So, can't complain. Life's good.
Okay, and I think like we discussed before getting on the Zoom interview, you're still busy freelancing, right? You're with Bot Jungle, right? That's your company. That's the studio that you're building, right? That's the name of the
Yeah.
entity.
Yeah, so it's Bajong Productions is essentially just my like kind of loan out company. It's where I run all my finances through, and like if I'm hiring people for different jobs or I'm subcontracting out different people, it's all run through that. But yeah, for the most part, my services are as a creative producer and like 3D artist, developer, just kind of a mix of different technical stuff. And then I tend to also in the last couple of years, I've shifted to managing more teams. So I'll still be in the weeds doing work, but I tend to be also the go-between for the different parts of the project. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot to cover in terms of your journey, but I think I'm gonna follow a chronological order of events so that I can present your story through this interview in the best light. And so for people who would be watching this interview, I first met Gehrig in Silicon Valley at a conference where Gehrig and a couple of his good friends, maybe even three, I think couple for sure, were demoing a horror VR experience. And those were the sort of like early VR days where, you know, everybody was excited about VR content, and Gehrig and his friends were definitely at the forefront with their company called Castle Step Games, right? That was the name of the company.
Yep.
And I just fell in love with their horror experience, and I wanted to try my best to present it to executives at Survios, a VR game development company, who was essentially buying licenses to distribute VR games in the arcade market. And that's how I met Gehrig. So early days, how does it feel to be a VR pioneer, Gehrig?
Well, that's very kind of you to say. I don't know if pioneer is necessarily the right word for it, but we definitely we're trying our best to make something different. And I mean, like, to be perfectly honest, like early on, we thought it was super cool tech. And there was definitely a part of us that was like, all right, can we maybe make a quick buck, like making some content? Because it seemed like anything that people were making, as long as it was halfway good, was just getting purchased. So our initial, it didn't stay that way for very long, but a lot of our initial kind of like inspiration and motivation was just like, all right, like let's see if we can just make a chunk of money and then like move on to the next project, like still probably within VR, but yeah, we didn't really know what we were doing when we first got into it, and I don't think there really were any best practices for VR or for content on your face in general. So it definitely was it was very exciting, and I know I feel very grateful for like all of the times where frankly like we got into rooms with people that I don't think in a different industry you usually get to be in rooms with people like that within just like 6 to 12 months, which was like, for example, you like bringing us into Servius, like that was a totally overwhelming and exciting experience. Like, okay, like, so this is big leagues, like this is real shit. And we actually, this is kind of tangential, but I don't know if I've ever told you this story where like, we loved you so much, Ashish, when we first met you. And there was like this whole thing of like, when we went to Servios and like, I mean, we had a good experience overall, but it was very clear that like there wasn't any interest from any other party. But we walked away like, all right, Ashish is the guy though. So we like had this joke of like, we had a desk set aside for Ashish because like as soon as we have the money, we want to hire Ashish. That was like this whole thing. But yeah, no. So it feels good, I guess, to have been a part of something when it started, because I learned a lot and was forced to learn a lot. Just about content development and I guess creativity in general and what it takes to actually make something. So I think up to that point, I didn't know what hard work was. So that was
I
my,
I was on the other side, right? Because I was working at a big four management consulting firm called EY. And then I was like, you know what? This is not tough enough. I need a bigger
Mhm.
challenge. So I'm gonna go join a startup. And my idea for a startup was a, Series C funded Servios with 50 million in the bank. And I was like, you
Yep.
know what? This is safe enough. I can maintain my work visa, stay in the US. This is a
Yep.
startup. And then I saw
Mhm.
you guys. I was like, no, this is a startup. And this is even more exciting.
Yeah, it's not a startup unless you're literally bleeding money and
It's like,
and
no,
working with God.
it was something that was so fascinating because I guess the kind
Yeah.
of bonds you make with people, right? Because you're like
Right.
every day in and day out, I'm sure you and the Davis brothers, right? Is
Yep.
that, yeah,
Bryce and Evan. Yep.
yep, you guys figuring out how to keep the company afloat and what to make and what's gonna work. And it's a spiritual journey. It's a mystical journey to be able to like, go through it and do what you guys did. So from my perspective, it was like anything I can do to get their games in the hands of the right people, that would be a win for me, right? So yeah, so from there on, I suppose you carried on working in the XR space, and obviously, you're like a multifaceted, multi-talented person. Like you are a developer, you are good with people, you have a solid business brain, and when I was working with you on the Enter the Flagon project with MetaStage, it was the communication was just so fast. I was like, this guy gets it. I can text him and I know that he will understand what I'm trying to say. And just the way you were using tools, Slack and Google Drive, and you just had this brain where you could compartmentalize a project into like accounting and finance and marketing and engineering and design and 3D art, et cetera, et cetera. So I just knew that,
Appreciate
this
that.
guy's one-stop shop to get the job done on budget, on time. But anyways, so, Castle Step Games happened and you moved on from it. And then you've been a freelancer after that. You've been an entrepreneur with Bot Jungle, but you're also a community builder, right? I mean, you've done a lot of events with a lot of people in the LAXR industry to sort of build a community around it, right? And I think I'm blanking on the name of the one community that you invited me to in downtown LA. But that's
Yeah.
like a 1,000+ community of developers and engineers and creatives that are focused about doing things in the XR industry, right?
Yeah, so that was XRLA.
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, like it was a big journey to get it where it is today, but we also got a huge head start in that when we actually inherited the meetup group. It was basically myself, Bryce, and Evan inherited it, but most of the events that we started doing early on, I was at least spearheading. I mean, it was a group effort at all times. And then a few guys that we had been going to events and stuff. And one guy, I don't know if you ever met him. He worked over at Upload VR. I don't know how close you were with those guys, but like Matthias over at Upload.
I think I met him
And then,
once through you.
yeah,
Yeah.
he was like doing all their event stuff. So I was like, hey man, like, would you have any interest in joining up? And like, he was super down. And then Kyle Chadwick, who's working over at shoot, I don't remember which hospital, but he's working at a hospital like in their like tech and like just like total forward thinking cool shit. He was super into joining up as well. And Nima, who just was everywhere in VR. I mean, he
Nimas,
still is
yeah.
everywhere in VR. Everyone knows Nima. Love Nima. Yeah, and so like we kept building it even after moving on from like the gateway warehouse location. Yeah, but we got a head start because the group when we inherited it had about 600 people. But in the last few years, I mean, COVID, we haven't done a whole lot because just in person was impossible. But yeah, we built it to, I think it's about 1,600 now, I think is where it's at now. Yeah, it's been fun. I like throwing events but man, is it time consuming. It's to throw a good one that's organized where everyone has a good time. It is a job, man. Like I have so much respect for full-time event operators. Like the amount of, and like ours were, never huge. I think the biggest ones we ever threw were a little under 100 people. Like, man, like events with thousands of people. So it's yeah, a lot of respect for event coordinators. That is a tough job.
That was,
So
yes.
I'm ranting at this point.
But I think there's so much that comes out of these events as connections and friendships, and I'm sure that's helped you in your career and has kept you in good stead with like regular gigs and just inspiration for projects. So I always thought that was something that was very commendable about you, is just keeping yourself busy in so many ways that you can enterprise, right? And I guess what comes to my mind right now, and I think it's something worthy of highlighting about your journey, is that you're actually a college dropout.
Yeah. Heck yeah, dude.
Yeah, that was something also which was very fascinating to me. It was like, this guy's a college dropout. The only thing he wants to do is enterprise. Would you ever take up a job like a 9 to 5?
Dude, it's so funny you say that. So I wish I could just outright be like, no, man, like screw corp or whatever. I probably would at some point if like I got into like a difficult financial situation or something, and I was just like, fuck, man, like I'm tired, like I'm not getting clients, whatever. Like, then yeah, I could see it happening. But realistically, I don't think I would last very long.
You won't last very long in the 9 to 5 corporate job.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know. I think the right company or the right team, I could see it being great.
Product manager at Facebook.
No, definitely not. Yeah, like a big tech company, definitely not. It would have to be something like in entertainment where I'm still able to have like a level of autonomy and like be like managing projects and green lighting shit. And like I need to have a creative outlet with my work, or like I'm not gonna last very long, or at least yeah, I mean, that might sound a little conceited, it probably is, but yeah, I think there's a level of just like I've been spoiled, man. I've been fucking spoiled. I dropped out of school and immediately like started a company with my pals that like was not necessarily financially viable. I always had to have separate jobs, but like we were having a great time. We were learning so much, and like the skills, it wasn't even a plan. It just like the skills happened to translate into work that could like pay my bills well, and like meet a bunch of people, and like get a good network of potential clients and that kind of thing. So yeah, I've just been very lucky. But yeah, I don't know if I could do it.
I don't blame you. I feel like there's always this thrill of just coming up with an idea. Like you said, you would want to be in a position where you can greenlight something, right? So it's like something you hold in your imagination, and you really love the idea, and you really want to make it happen. And just the whole process of getting it greenlit, building a team around it, getting some funding, and just bringing the vision home, right? I guess that's probably instills a lot of meaning and purpose in you, and that's why you wouldn't want it any other way.
Yeah. I mean, as long as there's storytelling, I'll make it work, But I like what I do right now, and I'm very, very fortunate that it's working out so far. So I'm going to keep on this path, and we'll see when I have to jump ship. But
I see. Okay, that's definitely. I thought it was a quick mention about you being a college dropout is worthy of attention as part of this interview. But tell me more about your recent VR AR projects, because I remember when we were working on Enter the Flagon, which for me personally was like a really exciting project, because I felt like we had access to this dev kit, which was this tech licensed by tech powered by Microsoft that MetaStage had given us access to, and holograms. Just the idea of it is so cool to me, right? I mean, I'm still waiting for those days where there's going to be a 3D projector and emissive display of some sort, and we're going to be hanging out, and I can see you in full holographic 3D presence, and we play a game of chess or something like that, just catch up. I think that'd be pretty cool, but I don't know how close we are to that future. Hopefully not too far. But
Well, if you want to see at least the first step into that, it blows my mind. It's not bigger than it is right now. But Looking Glass is a
yeah,
company. Yeah, you know them. Great. Yeah, they're doing, at least in my opinion, the best hologram shit that I've seen. It's
it's like
very
a
cool.
cube, right? It's like a cube.
Yeah, they do, like, it's not super deep yet, but yeah, they're doing holographic surfaces that are like, it fully looks three-dimensional. It's pretty cool. I'm gonna be doing a lot of projects with them, not like with them, but with the technology over the next year or so, for sure.
Exciting. So I remember speaking with you 2 years ago, and I sensed a bit of reservation about just the VR AR industry in you,
Hmm.
which, despite the fact that you have been in it for so long, and also are so knowledgeable and skilled at that entire technology and making experiences and products using that technology. Do you still feel that reservation given what's happened in the past 2 years and with Facebook getting rebranded to Meta, things of those
Yeah.
nature?
Yeah. I mean, I guess the short answer is yes. I don't necessarily see. I mean, it's driven by two things though, right? Like, on the one hand, I just don't want a future where everyone's just plugged in and like has glasses on with like a fake world around them and stuff like that. Bothers me. I don't like that. So as a just like philosophical exercise, I don't like the idea of them being like dominant technologies. I like the idea of VR being like bowling or something. Like, you go and do it and it's really fun and you like experience a really cool thing, like an escape room or whatever. Um, but the idea of people just living in their headset, to me, is a future I do not want. So that's at least certainly the biggest driver behind that. But I also do just, like, business wise, from early on, it felt like a giant bubble. And I mean, over the course of like the 5 years, I guess, or 6 years that I've been working in this industry and stuff like that, has at least kind of been, it has been as slow, if not even slower, than kind of what I had sort of expected. And there's been plenty of things I did not expect at all. But yeah, I think, I don't know. I mean, maybe it's controversial, but I think Facebook is the absolute worst company that could have ever been the one trying to drive all of this stuff. Like, they are the number one, like, most distrusted company in the world. Like, there's no way they're fighting such an uphill battle, even though they have more resources than God to get this technology across. And I think that by itself is a huge nail in the coffin of at least this round of that technology finding a foothold. But yeah, I mean, I'm not bullish on it. I think there's a lot of really cool shit that's been done with AR and VR, and I'll be super curious to see what comes next. But yeah, it's not necessarily the thing I want to do for the rest of my life. In the same way that, like, I've seen people who they're like, nope, I tried a VR headset and that was it. That's all I want to do. I want to make this shit. I want to live in this shit. This is cool as hell. And I'm like, hey man, more power to you. That's awesome. Like, no judgment. I hope you find success. But for me, it's not been yeah, I just was never fully sold on that, I think. So that hasn't quite changed.
Let's talk about your present interest though, because you told me that you seem to have found your North Star in uh, you know, again, like doing things around storytelling, but in a different medium now. And so tell me more about what's happening on that front, because that definitely seems very exciting.
For sure. Yeah, I mean, I think it was kind of weird. It was actually even just in the last few weeks that I've really had this moment of sitting back and going like, oh, like, the answer was there this whole time. Of like, it was storytelling, it was film, it was narrative. Like, as a kid, all I wanted to do was read books and like watch movies and stuff. And that's, or at least like 100 years ago, I would have wanted to be a novelist, but that's not necessarily the easiest way to like make it in today's narrative market. So yeah, I've moved towards film and television. Like, all the projects I'm doing that aren't like the pay the bill projects are all to do with narrative driven film, essentially. Just trying to get reps in on writing, on directing and acting and all that stuff. So that's kind of the moonlighting now. And yeah, I mean, that's any project that I take on too. If there's a component that is narrative driven, that's like the thing that I want to own as my contribution, to the project as much as possible, at least. And those are the people I want to work the most with. are the people defining like the vision of the piece and the narrative structure and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, I've been working on a lot of short films. Funnily enough, I met people through Reddit who've been incredible. We've made some really awesome stuff together. Like yeah, I essentially have been able to take my experience producing and just offer it to other people to get that experience and meet other people doing the same thing. And so I've been very fortunate that a lot of those skills just translated one-to-one into a different art form. And so I've been able to just have these great mentors in film and TV who are just happy to share, because I can help make their projects come to life as a producer. So yeah, it's been a lot of fun.
I'm definitely looking forward to your film journey, telling stories through the medium of filmmaking, because I remember I didn't get a whole lot of chance to work with you, but that just one project that I worked with you, and the way you would write your creative briefs, just allow yourself to trusting your stream of consciousness and just stream of thoughts and penning them down and sharing it with other team members, and just brings that speed, to move forward.
Okay.
So I think I'm definitely looking forward to what comes through your brain in terms of storytelling and screenwriting. And because I know, like, you don't seem like the kind of guy who would just like, oh, I just want to be an actor. Oh, I just want to be, you would just use all your skills to bring the vision home, right? Because I saw you behind the camera too. I saw you behind the camera in one of your Instagram posts. So definitely a boon to have on any team is Gehrigh Campbell-Dempsey. I hope we get to work soon.
Yeah, I love that, man. I'm excited to see what you do too. This SpiceTech and everything, man. It's been great. It's been fun watching you guys make your stuff.
Yeah, hopefully we'll be able to give you more updates, but more on that later. I'm gonna put you on the spot now. Okay. And I want you to drop into your flow state. No judgment zone, right? No distractions. And answer this question as freely as you can. The question is, if you had no fear, Gehrigh, no fear of failure, no fear of being judged by society, no fear of being able to make rent, which dream or aspiration or vision would you turn into reality?
I think selfishly, the one that I'm on right now, which is to work in film and television and tell stories. And I've tried to find ways that could also become something more meaningful, and I haven't found the answer to that yet. So whatever that might be or become, like something that includes ways to give back to the world. Like I've thought a lot about once you have the name or the power or the recognition, like you can do so much with that. And like there's different ideas for like charities and like places that you could volunteer at, and like trying to build systems like that as I build my more selfish aspirations. But I don't know necessarily what those would look like. But yeah, I think if I had no fear, it's I would just be doing what I'm doing, but a lot less fearfully and a lot more successfully probably. But yeah, I think I've been very fortunate that in the last couple of years I've kind of found, at least for me in this moment, what feels like what my path can and should be, and what I want to do. So yeah, film, television, writing, acting, directing, telling stories.
That sounds great, because I remember you telling everybody on our Enter the Flagon team that one day you want to be directing a Marvel film. And I remember that. That sounded really spicy. So more power to you on that dream. I mean, I really hope that first of all, like I think you have been someone who's always been very inspiring to me personally. With all the sort of things you pursue in your career, and just the kind of person you are. Working with you on Enter the Flagon, which was actually like a very important project for SpiceTech to become a thing, right? Those were the early days, and you were there with us, and we will never forget that. And the hopes is an aspiration for me as a dreamer living in my fantasy land is always to like find ways to keep working with people that I've enjoyed working with over the course of many years. And so hopefully, this journey continues, and maybe you guys will come to India and we would be doing a project. Maybe your Marvel film it's gonna have like a, like I've been thinking about this curry Western sci-fi. It's like a Western,
Yeah.
cyberpunk Western film, but it's got like a Indian element to it. So it's like a curry Western sci-fi.
I
And
love it.
and so maybe like I'll pitch it to you in the near future. And maybe that would be a good way to bring you guys here. Because I don't know, these visa problems are always there. So I'm a little tired of that. And
Yeah.
I think the only thing that I like about the XR tech in this moment is if they can like make the whole like remote work thing even more seamless, right?
Mhm.
And then I guess that could be something that I could be really, really excited about. But I do hear your concerns about like that dystopian world that we could end up in. It's just there's like a good side to it and there's like a bad side to it, but hopefully only the positive use cases that help people work together, have more trust with each other across different countries and continents. Because these visa regulations and not having an open border
Yeah.
world is a bit of a not so fun thing.
Yeah. No, for sure. I hear that, man.
But anyways, I hope to see you in the real soon,
Yeah, man.
either in America or in India, or maybe in Canada or some other country. We're still just getting started, all young folk here, full of energy and dreams. So thank you
Yeah.
for giving your time today to me and going down memory
Thank
lane
you.
with me.
Yeah.
And you stay inspired, my friend. And I hope to do this with you sometime soon and keep sharing
Yeah.
updates with each other and stay in touch.
For sure, man. Yeah, thank you. And I wish you only just the best of luck on your ventures. I think you're an insanely contagiously positive and fun person to work with. And I think you've got a knack for pulling in talented people to do cool shit. So I'm very, very excited to see where you go. And you gotta keep me posted, man.
I will, and I will stay in touch. I'll talk to you soon, brother. Have a great, great weekend.
Thank you very much. You as well.
All right, bye-bye, buddy.
Peace, brother.